if you follow me on social media, you've seen recently that I've posted numerous posts about a company that I've actually fallen to really like. That is Algix3d. Now, luckily Algix sent me their entire line of filaments to test out, and I have to say I haven't had a problem with any of them. And I haven't had a problem with the tolerance at all, or even clogging. Now, the nice thing about their entire line is they all print relatively low temperatures. So if you have a PLA only printer, you can still use this. And which I've found is kind of rare for a company that only produces exotic filaments. Now, the first one I want to talk to you about is actually the one that was featured in the May Maker Box, and that is the Alga. Now, the Alga is a relatively fascinating filament for me because it's an algae based and it's mixed with a PLA, which in the close-up you can see it has the shiny properties of a PLA based filament, but it also has some very nice natural aesthetics. And instead of coming out very shiny like a standard PLA print, it actually kind of has almost a matte look to it, and it feels very interesting. It feels awesome to me, and aesthetically it's very pleasing. Now, the settings for this are actually relatively low, especially for an exotic, and so I printed this at about 205 degrees Celsius on the bed, and I printed this at 55 degrees Celsius. Some people can print this lower. I have a Robo 3D that's completely open, so I tend to print on the bed a little higher than I probably should, but I found it stuck very well with the glue stick on the glass. And I've actually found that this is relatively strong, being that what it's made out of. And you can see in the close-up here the shine it has and kind of the natural aesthetic it has. Now, the next filament I want to talk about is the Algix Dura. Now, the Dura is one of my favorite filaments as it is a PLA based, but has kind of a rubbery feel. And unlike a standard PLA that is very shiny, it actually has kind of a matte look and feels similar to a rubber. Now, it's also very strong, and I haven't really had an opportunity to test it, but I did print a foot for my Robo 3D, which is essentially a 90-degree angle, and I have to say I really can't break it. Now, another nice feature about this is not only does it print low, but it also prints with relatively low heat on your print bed, which you probably could get by without any heat. Now, they recommend you use a hairspray, but I actually used a Elmer's glue stick and didn't have a problem with any of the warping. The next filament I want to talk about is their APLA, or Advanced PLA. Now, the nice thing about this is it does print with your basic PLA settings, and I would recommend this as an everyday PLA. I found it does very nice on overhangs, and when I printed the skull, I actually didn't have a problem with any of the overhangs, which does seem to cause problems with some filaments that I've found. Now, I did go strictly by their basic PLA settings, so if you get this, I would highly recommend checking out their basic recommended settings. Now, I never had a problem with this one either, and that's something I've found as a trend with their filaments, is their tolerance is really good. So, if you're looking for a basic, everyday, nice, durable, comes out with a very nice, shiny, I highly recommend this one. And we can see that in the close-up video. Now, I didn't receive a narrative or any settings or information regarding this filament, and so I found this strictly on my own. And I actually found that on my Robo 3D, which is open, I found it prints best at about 210 degrees Celsius with a 55 degrees Celsius on the bed and about 60 millimeters a second. Now, I also found that this is a relatively strong filament, as I didn't spool this like I have some of the other samples I've received in the past. I kind of just let this sit flat on a table, and doing so, it actually knotted, and unlike most filaments, when they knot and they get right before they pull into the hot end, which breaks it, this actually knotted and yanked everything out of the hot end. Now, luckily nothing broke and there was no damage, but this is a very strong filament, and I'm hoping to be able to purchase more of this at a later date when it's finally released to the public, so I can test out the full strength of this and hopefully recommend this for the drone build that I am currently working on. Now, if you have any comments or suggestions, or you have any questions in general, please feel free to comment below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe. Thank you.